Every evening, when the day begins to slow down, our lives reveal patterns that we rarely notice. Some people come home and immediately turn on the television. Others take off their shoes, pour themselves a drink, or scroll through their phones for hours. These actions feel automatic, like second nature. They do not require conscious thought. And yet, these simple behaviors, repeated again and again, form the foundation of our lives. Psychologists call them habits, and habits are perhaps the most powerful invisible force that shapes who we are and who we will become. Think for a moment about your morning. Did you think carefully about brushing your teeth, about which shoe to put on first, about the way you poured your coffee? Most likely not. You just did it without hesitation. That is the magic and danger of habits. They free our minds from constant decision-making, but they also lock us into cycles that are hard to escape. A small routine, repeated daily, can transform your health, your relationships, your career, and even your sense of self. But the same mechanism can also trap someone in destructive patterns: overreading, smoking, procrastinating, or endless scrolling through social media. The science of habits tells us something fascinating. Every habit begins with a loop. First, there is a cue, something that triggers the behavior. Maybe it is the smell of fresh coffee or the buzz of a notification on your phone. Then comes the routine, the action you take, like drinking the coffee or unlocking your screen. Finally, there is the reward, the satisfaction you feel, the energy from caffeine, or the little burst of dopamine from reading a message. This loop, cue, routine, reward, repeats again and again until the brain learns it so well that it runs almost automatically. This explains why changing habits is so difficult. If you simply try to stop, your brain resists because the loop has already been wired into your neural pathways. That is why so many people fail when they declare, "From tomorrow, I will never eat junk food again," or "I will never smoke again." Their brains are not just fighting willpower, they are fighting a deeply ingrained loop. But psychology offers hope. Researchers like Charles Duhigg and Wendy Wood have shown that while habits are sticky, they are not unbreakable. The trick is not to destroy the loop, but to rewrite it. Keep the same cue and the same reward, but change the routine in between. Imagine someone who eats a cookie every afternoon at work. The cue is the clock striking 3. The routine is walking to the cafeteria. The reward is a moment of pleasure, a little sweetness, a break from stress. If this person tries to quit cookies by sheer willpower, the craving will be strong. But if they replace the routine, maybe by walking to talk with a friend or grabbing a cup of tea, they still get the reward of relief and pleasure, but in a healthier way. Over time, the brain accepts the new routine, and the habit shifts. Stories make this clearer. There was once a man who struggled with smoking for years. He tried nicotine patches, cold turkey, even hypnosis. Nothing worked. Then one day he realized something. Every time he smoked, it was not really the cigarette he wanted. It was the break, the deep breath, the pause from work. So he began a new routine. When he felt the urge, he walked outside, inhaled deeply for a few minutes, and chewed gum. At first it felt awkward, incomplete. But gradually his brain adjusted. The cue remained, the stress of work. The reward remained, the pause and the breath. But the routine had changed. Slowly, the desire for cigarettes faded. Psychology is full of such stories. Habits are not about strength of character, they are about design. If you design your environment cleverly, you can shape your habits almost without noticing. Think of someone who wants to eat healthier. If their kitchen is filled with chips, cookies, and soda, every cue will push them toward unhealthy routines. But if the kitchen is stocked with fruits, nuts, and water, the same moments of hunger will lead to better choices. We like to believe that we act freely, but so much of what we do is dictated by the cues around us. There is also the fascinating case of keystone habits. These are special routines that, once built, cause positive ripples in many other areas of life. Exercise is a classic example. People who start exercising regularly often notice that they sleep better, eat better, and even become more productive at work. They did not plan to improve all those things, they just changed one key habit, and the others followed naturally. Another keystone habit is writing down what you eat. Studies show that people who keep food journals automatically make healthier choices, even if they never consciously tried to diet. The act of recording creates awareness, and awareness drives change. But let us not make it sound too easy. Habits are sticky because the brain saves energy through them. Willpower alone is like a weak muscle. It gets tired quickly. That is why people who make ambitious New Year's resolutions often fail by February. They rely on willpower instead of structure. To truly change, you need systems. For instance, if you want to run in the morning, lay out your running shoes and clothes beside your bed the night before. This reduces friction and strengthens the cue. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow so you cannot go to bed without picking it up. These small environmental designs trick your brain into following new routines. Consider how companies exploit this. Supermarkets put candy at the checkout because they know that the queue of waiting in line creates boredom, and the quick routine of grabbing a snack leads to a sweet reward. Social media apps use red notification badges because red is a color that grabs attention, signaling urgency. The cue is the badge, the routine is clicking, and the reward is the unpredictable message. Sometimes interesting, sometimes not. This unpredictability actually makes the reward stronger. Psychologists call it a variable reward schedule, and it is the same principle that keeps people playing slot machines in casinos. Now imagine how powerful this can be in your personal life. If companies can design cues that shape your habits, why not become the designer of your own? Instead of letting the world control your loops, you can set up your own cues and rewards to build the life you want. Want to learn a new language? Pair study time with a cup of your favorite tea. Soon, the tea becomes a cue for studying. Want to walk more? Park your car farther away, so the routine of walking becomes automatic. Small changes, repeated daily, snowball into transformation. We can also look at history for evidence. Great leaders and thinkers were often masters of habits. Benjamin Franklin, for example, famously created a chart where he tracked 13 virtues every day, from temperance to humility. By monitoring himself, he built awareness and structure. Modern psychologists would call this habit tracking. Today, apps and journals continue this tradition, helping people see progress and reinforcing routines. But habits do not only shape individuals, they shape societies. Think of seat belts. Decades ago, wearing a seat belt was rare. Through repeated cues, ads, laws, reminders in cars, it became a norm. Now most people buckle up without thinking. Recycling is another case. When bins became more common and governments pushed awareness campaigns, recycling transformed from a rare action into a habit for millions. This shows how entire cultures can shift, one routine at a time. Even darker examples exist. Consider how propaganda and rituals in history created habits of obedience. When a society repeats slogans, salutes, or ceremonies daily, those routines shape thought patterns and loyalty. Habits, in this sense, are not just personal but political tools. For you as an individual, the question becomes, which habits are shaping your life today without your awareness? Maybe it is checking your phone first thing in the morning. Maybe it is reaching for snacks at night. Maybe it is speaking negatively to yourself when something goes wrong. These small loops accumulate. As the philosopher Will Durant summarized Aristotle's wisdom, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Changing habits is often compared to steering a giant ship. At first, it feels slow, heavy, resistant to movement. You push and nothing seems to happen. But once the ship begins to turn, momentum builds, and before long it is moving powerfully in a new direction. That is how life works. Habits may take weeks or months to shift, but once they do, the force they generate carries you forward with less and less effort. The real magic is that after a while, the effort disappears almost entirely. What once felt impossible becomes automatic. Take the simple act of flossing teeth. Many people avoid it, saying it feels boring or unnecessary. Dentists remind them, guilt weighs on them, but nothing changes. Then one day someone makes the smallest adjustment. Instead of trying to floss at night when they are tired, they floss right after brushing in the morning. The cue is brushing, the routine is flossing, the reward is a sense of freshness. After a month, it no longer feels like a chore. It is simply part of life. The same principle applies to much larger ambitions: saving money, studying, exercising, being kinder. Each can be anchored to a cue, transformed into a loop, and repeated until it becomes effortless. Consider the story of a woman who wanted to write a novel. For years she dreamed, but procrastination always won. She thought she needed long hours of inspiration, a quiet cabin, perfect conditions. But her life was busy, and those conditions never came. One day she decided on a new habit: write just one sentence every morning after her coffee. At first it felt laughable. One sentence could not make a novel. But the cue was coffee, the routine was writing, and the reward was a small sense of accomplishment. Soon one sentence became a paragraph, then a page, then a chapter. After 2 years, she had a finished book. The great dream was not achieved by waiting for perfect moments, but by building a small habit that grew naturally. This shows another important truth. Habits are the bridge between goals and reality. Goals are important. They give direction. But goals alone are weak because they rely on motivation, which rises and falls like the weather. Habits, on the other hand, are stable. They carry you forward even when you feel tired, uninspired, or discouraged. That is why athletes train every day, why musicians practice scales, why successful entrepreneurs follow routines. They know that motivation may vanish, but habits remain. But what about bad habits? Everyone has them. Some people bite their nails, some overthink, some waste hours online. Can these really be changed? The answer is yes, but not by force. The most effective method is substitution. Psychologists say that the brain hates empty space. If you simply try to remove a habit, the craving will scream louder. But if you replace it with something else, the brain feels satisfied. For instance, someone trying to stop biting nails can carry a small object, like a stress ball, to squeeze when the urge arises. Someone trying to stop late-night snacking can drink tea or brush their teeth earlier, sending the signal that eating time is over. Over time, the new routine takes root. Environment also plays a powerful role. If you live surrounded by cues for bad habits, you will constantly fight temptation. But if you redesign your surroundings, the battle becomes easier. Remove distractions, hide unhealthy snacks, place your guitar where you can see it, keep your running shoes by the door. Small tweaks in your environment can create big shifts in behavior. This is why psychologists say, do not rely on willpower, rely on design. Another key element is identity. People who see themselves as trying to quit smoking often fail because their identity is still tied to being a smoker. But those who shift their identity, who say, I am not a smoker, behave differently. The habit change becomes part of who they are, not just what they do. Similarly, someone who says, I am a runner, is more likely to run consistently than someone who says, I am trying to run. Identity-based habits are more powerful because they reshape how we see ourselves. Think also about the habits of the mind, not just the body. Negative self-talk, for example, can become automatic. A person fails once, and instantly they think, "I am not good enough." That thought becomes a loop. Cue is failure, routine is negative talk, reward is a strange comfort in confirming what they already believe. Breaking this requires awareness. Instead of automatic criticism, a person can train themselves to pause and say, "I failed this time, but I can learn." The cue is the same, the reward is growth, but the routine is new. Over time, optimism itself becomes a habit. This is where psychology meets philosophy. We are not just bundles of habits. We are beings who can reflect, choose, and redesign. But most people do not realize this power. They live on autopilot, repeating the same loops year after year, wondering why life does not change. The truth is that small, deliberate adjustments can rewrite the script of life. No grand revolution is needed, just consistent practice. Let us take one last example from history. In the 1960s, a small town in the United States began a health program encouraging people to walk after dinner. It was a simple suggestion, not a law. Yet within a few years, the majority of the town had adopted the routine. Rates of heart disease and obesity dropped significantly. What happened? A cultural habit was born. Each evening, people saw neighbors walking, which became a cue. The routine was walking together. The reward was both health and social connection. The habit spread like fire, reshaping the community. Now imagine your own life. What small habit could spread into everything else? Maybe reading 10 minutes a day. Maybe saying one kind word to someone. Maybe stretching each morning. It may feel small, but as we have seen, small becomes powerful when repeated. Habits are like seeds. Plant them daily, and soon you will have a forest. And so, as we come to the end of this reflection, remember this: your habits are not fixed. They are living, flexible, ready to be reshaped. You are not a prisoner of your routines. You are their architect. The habits you build today will become the story you live tomorrow. If you choose carefully, you can create a life that reflects your deepest values and brightest hopes. Thank you for spending this time with me on Goodnight English. I hope tonight's journey into the psychology of habits has given you not only knowledge, but inspiration to look at your own life with fresh eyes. As you fall asleep, think about one small habit you want to plant tomorrow, one seed you want to water. Over time, it may grow into something greater than you ever imagined. Until next time, sleep well, dream deeply, and keep learning with Goodnight English. Good night.